Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final call. And on this episode, which will be the final part of my life skills series, I would like to talk about the importance of mental health and mental wellness as adults in today's society. So, mental health, first of all, I want to just give a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional, and I only wanted to talk about these two topics because I'm like a curious person that's interested in conscious topics that affect us as adults in our day-to-day lives, and sometimes it's good to give insight for other people who may not understand, and that is what I'm coming to do today. So with mental health and mental wellness, the two coexist together. You don't normally hear mental wellness, but it is very important when it comes to mental health. Now, mental health you hear for almost everything. I've done a 12-hour shift and my back hurts, and I can't go on anymore. My mental health is destroyed, and not to add insult to injury, but mental health is a very serious thing that people deal with, and it's very important to know the difference between what's actually affecting your mental health versus what's going on in your mental well-being, which is why it's called mental wellness. Now, mental health is to do with a person's condition when it comes to their psychological and emotional well-being. And mental wellness is the intentional and regular processes that you take to keep your mind and your emotions balanced and healthy and stable. Now, those are definitions coming from the Oxford Dictionary, which I will elaborate on. But when it comes to mental wellness, it comes before mental health. To manage your psychological and your emotional state, you need to know what emotions or behaviors or patterns are affecting your mind and your ability to handle your emotions in everyday life. So I want to start at a baseline. What symptoms do you have or go through when you are thinking about how good is my mental health? So just some general points. We can start with, sometimes you might have weight gain or weight loss. You might lose a whole leap of motivation in life or certain activities. You might struggle sleeping. You may also go through a lot of mood swings. You might end up feeling disconnected from life altogether, or feeling emotionally drained. You might make yourself overly busy in your life just to distract yourself from certain stresses that you come across, or you might feel that to cope you indulge in drugs or alcohol by increasing your level of it. You might just even self-neglect, where you just not think about looking after yourself. You just let whatever be. Or you might have some suicidal or intrusive thoughts that just get the better of you. Or it might be that if at the end of the day you don't understand your mental health altogether and you just think anything and everything is a problem for you. And sometimes it can come down to maybe certain, in the case of genders, men will experience one thing and women will experience another. When it comes to women, we might internalize or overemphasize, or not overemphasize, overthink our emotions. Or we might feel that we need to hold everything together, because if we don't hold it together, then it will all crumble. Or we might feel underappreciated or misinterpreted for certain things that we may take on or do in our life. You might feel an emotional burnout from just doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, and just making sure that you show up all the time for something and not let anybody know that you are down and out. Or you might physically go through some bodily imbalances, so your hormones might fluctuate a lot. The mood swings will definitely come. You might have bloating, you might miss your period or have irregular periods, or not have any periods at all sometimes if things just get really stressful for you. You might go through headaches. Obviously, your loss of appetite might come to it as well. You might even look at yourself and just feel like... You might feel like a potato, or a sack of potato, that I say to myself sometimes. Rather than saying, oh, you know what, maybe I feel beautiful today. For men, sometimes they will also go through their things. It's not that it's just women that go through things. Men go through things too. They may just go in the closet and handle it themselves, but they definitely go through it as well. In the case of men, some men might feel emotional numbness. They may just not want to tell you anything about their emotions, or they may just hide it within themselves. They can become extremely irritable, or have short tempers, or just be angry at everything all the time. Or it might be that they have a decline in their self-worth when people look at them and they see them as high and mighty, but in themselves they don't feel that way, and they may not understand why is it people perceive them to be like that when they don't necessarily feel that way in themselves. And sometimes if a man's self-worth is truly affected, they may not even want to give themselves in any capacity, or they will just put up an emotional front, which is another point, just to make sure that you are happy. And they also might feel misunderstood. And sometimes when it comes to men, if you don't necessarily always just ask them how they're feeling, they may not necessarily tell you. And you can't always perceive how a man is going to feel unless he tells you how he's feeling. You may judge and be like, oh, yeah, I know how to read this guy. But until they tell you how they're feeling, you may assume something and then try to remedy the situation when you've got the whole thing wrong altogether. And that same mindset can apply to a woman as well. And we like to say, no, we're fine, we're okay, we're good. And then there might be like a few things that are just ticking us off. And if you just see something, it might just set the whole thing off, and you explode at one another, and you may say some things that you just necessarily didn't mean to say. So all these things that us as men and women go through, or even just the general points that I listed to begin with, all have factors that affect or bring up these very things. So it can be our jobs, it can be our family life, it can be our family members, it can be our children, it can be how we had planned our life to be and actually where we are now, or even just our own perception and how we see ourselves. And even sometimes our friends can be trigger points for us when it comes to our mental health. Now, when it comes to mental wellness is the thing that helps you manage your mental health. And when it comes to your mental health, it's very important that you tailor-made the routine or the habits or the behaviors or just the plan in order to make yourself a better version each day, or manage your mental health one way or another. Mental wellness is just another form of self-care. The same way you might just take yourself out or get a little pamper or go to sleep for a little bit. It's the same thing when it comes to mental wellness. It requires your active effort to put yourself first. Now, in order to take care of yourself mentally, you have to look at yourself as a novice rather than an expert. You may know you, but until a situation arises is where you truly find out what it is you can handle and what it is you need to improve on. So the same way that when you think about your mental wellness, you need to be attentive and sensitive to yourself. What I mean by that is, think of, actually, let me not say it like that. I will say, when it comes to your mental wellness, there are certain things that you need to address in order to make sure that your mental wellness is effective. Now, the first thing I would like to address is you need to correct your perception on what mental health and mental wellness is. Understand the two. And why that's important is if you blur the lines, you won't necessarily know where it is you can be better in one and where you can be better in the other, or which one is just going to be effective to you. So think of yourself as a baby or a young child. When you have a baby, or if you have a child that's at home that's younger to you, or a young child in general, you have a level of patience and time with them. The same way when you have a baby, you want them to walk, but you'd allow them to have tummy time. Then you let them crawl. Then you prop them up and hold them on their legs just to make sure that they feel the strength in their bones. And then one day they get up and they start walking. Or if it's a young child, you will repeat the same instruction all the time until your brain is like it's just gone. But you hope that the child gets it, and through time they practice the very thing that you're trying to get them to understand, and they learn day by day, and eventually they will also get it too. That is the exact same thing that you should do when it comes to applying how to be well mentally. If it's a symptom that is new to you and you have no idea whatsoever how to handle it, then you will be a baby in the situation. But if it's something that you have a fair idea, then you might be a young child in that situation, and you will just supplement your knowledge with advice that you might get from somebody, or somewhere where you might read, or an experienced person that might give you tools in order to help yourself be better. That's one way that I would say you can start. And then the second point that you can go on to is try to gain sufficient understanding when it comes to the challenges that you might face with certain life choices that you go into. You can never truly be ready for everything, but if you have something to fall back on when it comes to your knowledge, then it's better than going in blind to something. So for instance, if you're trying to get married, or you're buying a house, or you want to be a dad or a mum, or you want to own a car, or you want to start a business, get experience from X, Y, and Z, or read up on something that might give you insight. Plain as day example. If you want to buy a car, you consider your budget first of all. Then within that budget, you think about the following things: how much your insurance is going to cost, what's the MOT like, is there a level of susceptibility to buying a certain car brand in terms of going to the mechanic? Like, how many times would you have to go to the mechanic to make sure that your car is fixed? The age of the car, the mileage, even the colour, or even if the car itself, does it suit the lifestyle and the daily habits you need that car for? And in all of that, it would then tell you what is the best car or cars that you can afford and buy. And even in that, when you do decide on the car, you have a peace of mind because you've gone through the necessary analysis and protocol to ensure that you've made the best decision for yourself. Now, suppose you didn't do any of that and you just bought a car without thinking about anything. You would wake up and be like, why did I buy this car? So it's the same thing when it comes to the very things that I just listed. If you can make sure that you are prepared before you go forward with certain life decisions, it will do you some good. You won't be ready, but it will do you some good. Now, another point I would like to focus on when it comes to mental health and mental wellness is know the symptoms that you're actually dealing with. Sometimes people like to overemphasize on certain problems that they're going through, or even minimize the symptoms that they're going through, and both of those things just blur the lines of how it is that you understand what you're going through and what solution it is that you're applying to make sure that you're better. When you know the patterns, or you know the behaviors, or you know the points that trigger you, you know how to control the situation as best as you can. And it's better to be in control. But sometimes you might not always be in control, and at the end of the day, you might lose out to the symptom itself. So, for instance, the symptom of a certain problem might pop up, and that is like your first clear sign that something is definitely wrong. Now, that is your first point of, I'm going to address it now. But if over time you may not have the time, or you don't know how to do it, and you don't seek the necessary resources or treatment or whatever, that can develop over time, and that's where it turns into a disorder. Now, by that point, when it turns into a disorder, it's become a regular thing that affects your daily life, is very persistent, and it will require more than just your willpower to get through. That's where counselling and therapy and certain treatments come on board with you, and you have to now also not necessarily take a back seat, but you now have to be even more proactive, because the tools are there to help you. It requires you to show up, and together you will learn how to manage your mental health, and you will demonstrate to yourself that there is a way that I can still ensure that my well-being is being looked after and my emotional state is being balanced, and eventually you can get to a point where you become stable again. So don't look at it as that you need to put all the blame on yourself. If somebody offers you the tools to get better, just take it, and take it one step at a time. Even if it takes you a good year. Think about people who go in rehab. They go in and out sometimes because they relapse on certain things, or they come out of rehab and they're a completely changed person altogether, and they recognize, okay, I don't want to go in this direction because I know exactly where it's going to lead me. And that shows that they have grown from where they were a couple months ago, or maybe a couple years ago, in whatever they were struggling with. So in all of that, you have to now find the habits or the routines or the practices that work for you. I can list how many practices that you can take on board if you don't have a solution currently and there's something that you're struggling with. So it can start from maybe taking a walk, or reading a book, or listening to music, or if you're a visual person, you can create a vision board where it has like motivational quotes or scriptures or pictures that keep you focused on what it is you're trying to achieve. You might be somebody that just wants to sleep, because sleep is a great remedy sometimes. Or you can watch a movie, or see family, see friends, or take a car trip somewhere, or you go on a short drive somewhere. You can dance. Just do something that allows you just to let go, and it doesn't require a whole leap of pressure on your brain to make sure that you achieve something at the end of the day. Sometimes it just takes the idea of just doing something different to feel renewed in yourself, and not feel those same intrusive thoughts that you feel day in and day out. If you just change your scenery, or you change your perspective, it can just help, just that little just that little ounce, something. Every little helps, as to say. Just think that when you do the habits that you do, there's an important point that I want everybody to think about, is that even if you are present, know that you're not always available for everybody. Sometimes, even if you want to be there for a certain responsibility that you manage or certain people that are important to you, you have to have a boundary with them too. Even if you love them to death or you are dedicated to the thing that is that you're doing, it requires you at the end of the day. And if you can't show up, then where are you left? As where is it that you go? So if it is that you find yourself in that position, set the boundary and allow others to also assume that same responsibility. Why I say that is, you can't always be there and do everything all the time. And if the so-called people that you are around for a reason, let them prove that reason to you. And if it be that you take a step back and you allow them to do the certain things that you would normally do, if they can't fulfill that role and they fail miserably, then you know, okay, I can't trust that person with somebody or something that I would normally do. Or it can be that they show up and they succeed very well, and then they have now proven to you that, okay, they can handle that. And then you can take a step back if you have something else that you need to manage or you just don't want to do it that day. Because if you try to apply yourself everywhere, then you will never know somebody's ability to do that very thing that you also manage to. So know how to apply that. It may take some practice, because even me, I don't always like to delegate. I feel like if I can do it, then it's good for me, and I don't have to think about who it is that can do that very same thing for me. Because some people like to micromanage and know that, okay, if I'm not there at that very moment, how is it I know it can be successful? But let people prove themselves, and at the end of the day, if you don't need them in your life anymore, or you don't need that certain responsibility or venture that you're doing, just let it be, let it go. Don't pay so much time or attention to it, because it's important to know where you are needed, not where you just choose to be all the time. If somebody proves themselves good to you, then be there for them. Or if the situation is beneficial, the venture is successful for you, then continue on that direction. And then I would say that this is going to be like a bonus point, but I don't think it's a bonus because I think it relates very well to what I'm saying here in my last point. In all the habits that you put down, have a healthy amount of selfishness to it. What I mean by it, obviously we know what selfishness is, but the reason why I say healthy is because in this case you'd have to be rational and be considerate about the habits that you are putting down. You have to address that, what is it in my mental well-being that I want to put down and put in place to ensure that I'm managing my well-being day in, day out, or managing it according to when the situation arises. So if it involves people, you need to notify those exact people that, okay, I do this on a particular day at a particular time, and I'm going to start trying to do that because I want to look after myself. And it's not for them to be all angry and be like, oh, why are you doing that? No, it's more about you have been respectful to them and you've made them aware that you are considering yourself, and you also care about how it is you want to show up to them in case they needed you. So make sure that in you telling them, don't have a nasty tone or derogatory tone or offensive. Just be like, okay, I need to do this at a particular time. Will you allow me? And or close off your day at a certain point or whatever it may be that you do, and then just allocate that time to yourself. It doesn't have to be that you do it every week or so. Start it small. Be realistic. If you know you've got 2 weeks where you do something and it requires your time, maybe in the middle of those 2 weeks do it once. But if you know you have a little bit more free time here and there, then maybe try and implement it maybe twice in that week or 3 times in that week, depending on the time that you have. Know your responsibilities and then plan accordingly to that. When it comes to your mental health and your mental wellness, they coexist with each other. And when you have good mental wellness habits, then they create a good foundation for your mental health at the end of the day. And each and every little thing that you do, just implement it small, get by, keep moving forward. Know when you've hit rock bottom and know where you can start again, and give yourself grace. Some way, somehow you will get through it. And even if help is given to you, take it, whatever it may be. You don't have to disclose your progress with everybody, because the progress, it only matters to you. All that matters is the result that people see. And however you get to it, if you feel comfortable to share that with certain people, then feel free. But you're not obligated to show your progress and how you get from A to B. It only matters to you. So thank you for listening, and hope you have a good day, and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed the series that I've offered.